the Tomato here. This is Joe Spataford. He's a concept artist at Big Idea. His job is to create many of the places and characters you see in one of our shows. Today, he's going to show you how to draw Toto Baggypants.
Okay, so here we are. We're going to draw Toto. This is obviously Junior. So Junior, the way I start with Junior is I start with seeing a rectangle shape for the body first, and I think of it, I draw the center line, and I think of it in terms of 3 sections. And on the top third, where the line kind of divides the top third, I draw the eyes in. So the eyes are kind of 2 squashed, almost egg shapes together, and I'm drawing really light. Draw another small circle for the nose, and draw 2 little circles that kind of tilt inward a little bit for the eye shape, and 2 little circles inside the eyes for highlights. And then I'm going to draw a smile on him because, well, Junior always smiles. He's a happy little guy. Okay, now I'm going to block him pretty much where the hair shape is, so it's almost like putting a big afro on him. There we go. Draw that circle shape in, and that's just a guide for where the hair is going to be. Because Toto actually has some fun hair in this show. And in order to get that hair shape, we're going to draw these kind of zigzag lines. So here we go. We're going to have one of those zigzags here, one of them here, one of them here, here. I'm going to draw some of those zigzag lines in the top of his head right there, and some in his hair up here. Alright, so now we have to get down to his lower body and his cloak. Now, holding the cloak up, there's a brooch that looks like a leaf. So that has almost a heart shape, and it has a little stem coming out of it like that. Okay, so now he's got a cape that goes around. So we're going to almost draw 2, what's going to look like 2 triangle shapes. There's that one kind of triangle shape, and then there's another one that kind of happens right up here. You notice that I'm just going to kind of leave a little bit of a space here in between this line and this line. That makes it look like this back line is going all the way around behind him and comes over here. Now this is the other side of his cape. The lower part, he actually has a shirt, and you'll see some of that kind of comes on the top there. Okay. The lower part of his shirt is here. They're almost like 2 square shapes. Then he's got 2 buttons that connect the shirt. Put them right there. And then he's got a pocket. That's where he puts the bean. Okay, now I'm going to just darken everything. I'm going to actually draw those eyes. Pushing it a little darker so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, let's get that smile in there, put that a little darker. And of course, the last thing we have to put in there, since he's holding that bean, because this is the bean of power right here, his talent, his special talent. And then what I'll do at the end, just to polish it off a little bit, is I'll put a little bit of shading in. This is cloak, so you can put some shading in there. Put some dark shapes in his eyes. And his smile. And that is Toto. Toto Baggypants.
Hi everybody, Bob the Tomato here. This is Tim Hodge. He's a director at Big Idea. He is also a really talented artist. Today he's going to show you how to draw Legolam.
Okay, well, Legolam is played by Jimmy Gord, and Jimmy, remember, is a couple of shapes. He's not a circle like Bob or an oval like Larry. It's kind of a circle and an oval put together. If you have a circle on top and an oval on bottom, so it's like an upside down light bulb shape. And draw light. Remember always to draw light at first until you get your lines just where you want them. Alrighty. Now Jimmy's nose, we're going to draw his nose first. Usually I like to start with the eyes, but today we're going to go with the nose. It's kind of like an oval shape on its side. Think of a watermelon shape. Nice and round and big. Big, fat, wide nose. Alrighty. And his eyes, just Larry's eyes and Bob's eyes, are kind of these egg shapes right beside each other. Just like that. You got that? They're not perfect circles, kind of tall circles. Now a leg of lamb is a little, let's give him a sly expression, okay? So let's draw this one eyelid on this side straight across, just like that. And this other one is raised a little bit, this little kind of curved shape there, like that. Got that? And his eyes are going to be looking over to the side. That one just like that, and just let it touch that eyelid there. Leave a little white spot, that's for the highlight. And his other pupil goes over on that side. So he's looking in the same direction, over kind of that way. Let's make him smiling a little bit sly. Let's put his smile over to the side. Okay, now that's Jimmy Gord pretty well, but remember we've got to put his leg of lamb costume on him. And let's start off with his hairdo. His hairdo is just combed back. So start off with the big, kind of the C shape. It comes down right in the middle of his head. But I'm putting everything a little off-center because he's turned to the side just a little. And it comes back over to the side. Now draw light because we're going to put some stuff in front of this in just a moment. And on this side, just a little curve that curves around behind his head there. Now in front, you remember he had these two kind of braids or pigtails that came down on either side. They're long like this. So these two slightly curved. You don't want it perfectly straight because it's hair. It's bunched up on either end. And right here is a little band around it or some sort of bead. And then the tail part. Now this is fun because this curve is smaller than this one, like that, see? And then it curves back around and it has kind of a point to it. Now this one is mostly, since he's turned, this side is hidden behind his eye a little bit. So we only want to draw mostly that half and make sure it's kind of even. See how the bead on this side is right over here? Make sure it's not too high or not too low because they're the same length. And do the same shape over here. Let's make it curve out too. So he doesn't have two curls curving in. A little curve and a big curve, and then it curves out like that. Got it? Okay. Now here we're not going to see much of the back of his hair because you remember he was wearing these big pointy ears. So let's do an almost straight line. It's a little bit curved up this way until we get to the point. And come down like that. It's almost like a teardrop shape, but it tucks in behind his hair there. And then just a little curve, little couple curves like that to show the inside of his ear. Now you have to do the same thing over here but kind of backwards, and make sure you don't do it too high or too low. His ears should be about the same. So let's start right behind there. Kind of look where I'm going. Make sure they're the same height. It's a little curved line. And this one should be just a little bit skinnier because it's turned around the other way. You don't see as much of it. See that? When things get turned in space, they look a little different. There. Now, his hair is going to come down behind it, but we don't want to draw all of it because we have to draw his clothes that he's wearing. And you remember he was wearing this green cloak that wrapped around, right around his chin there. You can put that right underneath his mouth. It goes all the way around, and right about here he had a clasp on it. It was just a leaf shape. It's kind of like this heart, but it curves at the end like a leaf, and put a little stem on it if you want. Okay, now this cape, let's let it go past the edge of his body here. And to show that it's wrapped around, you put this little half backwards C on this side, and it looks like it's a thick piece of cloth wrapped around him, and then coming out from under here is the bottom of the cloak where it wraps around like that. You can shade that in to show it wraps around. The same thing on this side. It's a little backwards C around the edge of his body. See that? How it makes it feel like it's wrapped around? And it's kind of clasped to the side of him over here, so you have more cape on this side. And then how it goes behind him. And he was wearing this tunic underneath with a belt. So we'll put the belt about right there. Just wrap it around. Not a straight line, a little bit curved because he's round, so everything gets kind of roundy. 2 lines like that for the belt. And you can put I think he had a belt buckle. Let's say he does now. Put a belt buckle there, and then where the bottom of the tunic comes. And then his little tummy peeks out the bottom here. Okay, we're not quite done yet. We look like we're done, but we're not. Remember, he had a bow and arrow. So we're going to draw his bow over here, which is a little complicated, so take your time. It's like this big curve, little curve, little curve, big curve, and little curve like this. And then it's thick in the middle, and it gets narrower near the ends, and then make a little oval that curves around the bottom. It's a little complicated, so take your time. You might have to back up the DVD and do this a couple of times to make sure you get it right. Same thing down here, just a little oval at the end where it curves around. I think in the show this was actually, it looked like a little bird head or a little duck head or something, but we won't get that complicated. And then the string comes straight line. If you want to get a ruler and draw that, that's okay. I'm going to draw the straightest line I can here. And then he had his little arrow right there. Just 2 straight lines for the shaft part, 2 kind of half ovals for the feathers. And then remember, it had a plunger on the end. So a little flat, real flat oval like that, kind of like Larry Boy's plungers. And because these lines all overlap, and it kind of looks like it's see-through, let's color his bow in a little darker, and that way it covers up the other lines that we drew. How's that? Of course, he has more arrows than those. We're almost done. Over here on the back side, he had a quiver. Quiver is like a little pouch where you keep your arrows in. Let's do a straight line up from there, from behind his cloak. And it was taller on one end. Just like that. And let's put 2 arrows in it, okay? Again, 2 straight lines for the shaft or the stick part of the arrow. These little half ovals for the feathers. There we go. And I think we're about done. We can darken some of these lines. And what do you think? There you have it. You have your own picture of Jimmy Gord as Legolam the elf. Hope you had fun.
Hi everyone, Bob the Tomato here. This is Joe Spataford. He's a concept artist at Big Idea. His job is to create many of the places and characters you see in one of our shows. Today he's going to show you how to draw Sheerluck Holmes.
Okay guys, here we're going to start drawing off Sheerluck Holmes. We're going to start off, it's Larry, so Larry is a cylinder shape or a really stretched out sphere shape. We've drawn Larry a bunch of times on these how to draws. Okay, so the first thing we do is we start off with the basic body shape, then we draw on the eyes. And like I've said last time, they're kind of like 2 egg shapes that are squished together. And just kind of indicate that. And I'm drawing very lightly, like always. I like to draw really lightly, so if I make mistakes, I can erase them real easily. I'm going to put 2 little circles in for eyes, and 2 little circles in there for highlights. Okay, so now I'm going to put in Larry's mouth. And how many teeth does Larry have? He has one tooth. Okay, so we got our basic body down here, our basic eye shape. I want to put a little bit of a lid on the top of his eyes. Okay, now Larry is dressed as Sheerluck Holmes. Now, probably the easiest way to draw his cape is to think of it like 3 different little squares. One here, and then, well, we'll actually make that a little higher. One here, and then one down here. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. 3 little squares. 1, 2, 3. Now what we're going to do is they're not perfect squares, so we're going to kind of come into them and make little diagonal lines that go in because it's a cape. We're going to put one here, and one here. And we'll do the same thing on the other side, and we're actually going to make one line that starts from the top of the cape down to the bottom. Okay. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, now we got to put his collar in. So his shirt collar. So we'll just draw a line that goes across the top and 2 little diagonal lines that go down the middle. That's where his collar comes together, and he has a little bow on. So we're going to put a little bow here, and then he's got these 2 little square shapes that come out of that. That's like his bow tie part. Then we're going to put another V shape right here. That's going to, he's actually wearing a shirt underneath his cape. And we're going to put a line that goes down from the middle of that V down to the base of his body. And then we're going to put another little line over here for the other part of the shirt. And he's got 2 buttons. One here and one here. Now I'm going to just darken the bottom part of his body here. And now this character has got a little bit of a cap on. So here's the easiest way to draw the cap is think of it like a half circle at the top. And we'll just cut it off like a half circle. And then we're going to draw another half circle that's a little bit more stretched at the top. And then at the top, make kind of a heart shape up there. And inside that heart shape, I want you to make 2 little circles. And we're going to just darken that shape in a little bit. And we're going to put 2 other little lines that go up to it there. And we're going to, actually we can just make it one big line. We just go up to it there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to darken everything in real quick. Oh, actually, I forgot one last thing. Sheerluck Holmes, he's got a magnifying glass because he's like a detective. So I'm going to put a circle with a little square and another kind of squarish with a round end shape here. And then right in this circle, I'm going to put another little circle. And then I'm going to put another little crescent moon shape right in there. That kind of shows that the side of this circle has a little depth. Okay, so now I'm going to just darken everything up. Darken the upper eyelids first. And just work this eye first. And we go to the top eyelid. All right. Now we're going to do the same thing over here. Top eyelid, lower eyelid, the highlight, the pupil there. Okay, now we're going to darken in the nose. The nose is dark. Okay, now we're going to darken in the mouth and the tooth. Side of his body. This side of the body. And we're going to work our way down here. We're going to darken in the magnifying lens that he has. Okay, we're almost done. We're working our way all the way down, darkening everything up. Darkening the lower part of his body. All right. Now we're actually going to save. Sheerluck has a lot of stripe patterns on his shirt, but we'll save that because this time we're going to do something special. We're going to put some color in it. I'm going to use markers. You can use crayons or whatever you'd like. But I'm going to start off with my light colors first because with markers that's sometimes pretty helpful. So I'm just going to kind of block in this light kind of tan shape for his jacket first. Just going to go over the whole thing. Here we go. I'm working on tracing paper, so it might not look the same as it will on yours. I'm sure yours will look awfully good too. I'm gonna get the color of his shirt in there, which actually, I might leave that pretty close to how it actually is already. I might just leave it kind of white. And I'm gonna color in his buttons. Real quick, there and there. All right, now I'm gonna paint in his coat, and I'm going to start by putting this orange color in the side of the coat. All right, there we go, there we go. And I'm working in with markers. You guys can work with whatever you'd like. Crayons work well. Now, being these are markers, I have to let this dry for a second here, but I'll work the other parts of the drawing while it's drying. Get the color of the hat in there. Okay. So as that's drying, I'm going to start going on to his Larry's skin color, which of course is green because he's a cucumber. So let's start. We're going nice and green there. Just going all around, you know, fine. Okay, here we go, his nose. But let's go all around. Get all the green. And it's okay if you guys go outside the lines. There's nothing wrong with coloring outside the lines. You're artists. You don't make mistakes, you make improvements. That's what my art teacher said when I was a little kid. Okay, this is the bottom half of his body, so we'll put that green in there. Now, let's go back into those lines, because remember I said I was waiting for this to dry? Well, I think it's pretty well dry now. Let's see. So, gonna try to get some lines in there, and that's not quite dark enough, so we'll just grab this. That's coat. These are all different layers, so I'm not drawing all the lines at once. I'm not going all the way down. I'm just handling each little square by themselves. And it's kind of like a checkerboard pattern, back and forth. I'll put the same ones in this hat. Color in that bow on the top of his head a little bit. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take some of this gray color that we have. We're going to color in, well, we'll do the eyes first. We'll do the edges of his eyes. I'm just going to smear it a little bit so it's a little softer. Maybe a little bit above his tooth. Okay, now we're going to put some of that gray actually inside this magnifying lens too, because it's made of metal. Put a little in there to indicate the glass. Put a darker color in too. Okay, now we'll put the edge of that in there. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to paint the black shapes, which are things like his eyes. And his mouth. And his bow tie. And the last thing that I'm going to do after all that work is all that coloring. You kind of lose a little bit of the drawing, so I'll go over it one last time and just pull out the areas that I think I lost a little bit. Just the big areas. Important areas. Okay, so that's a really quick coloring job for Larry as Sheerluck Holmes.
Hey everyone, Bob the Tomato here. This is Chuck Vollmer. He's a senior concept artist at Big Idea. He paints many of the beautiful backgrounds you see in our shows. Today he's going to show you how to draw Poncho.
Today we're going to be drawing Mr. Lunt as Poncho from Asparagus of La Mancha. Mr. Lunt is basically a egg shape with a slight bend in the top half of it. So we draw a simple shape like this. This is Mr. Lunt's body. And Mr. Lunt's nose goes about a third of the way, or 2/3 of the way up the body. As Poncho, he has a fairly large hat that sits just above the bridge of his nose. And it comes out just a little bit the way it sits on his head, like so. And the back of his hat would again be just a little bit lower than the bottom of his nose on each side. And the top of the hat is above his head and comes down like so. And that's the front of his hat flipped up. And then the top of his hat that would go over his head would come up like so to a kind of a rounded U shape like this. Right above his nose, well actually sitting on top of his nose are his eyebrows. And his eyebrows are pretty bushy. We'll go with a basic shape first. And let's put these basic shapes of his eyebrows like this so we get them just where we want them. And once we like the shape of them, and put little bumps for his bushy eyebrows. We got about 4 little bumps there, and we'll do the same on this side. And Mr. Lunt also has a nice size mustache. It comes out center of his nose. It comes out like a upside down V. Flares out on the sides and curls down. And same on the other side. Mr. Lunt also has some hair that comes out underneath his hat. Like so. Give him a little bit on this side. And now we can put his mouth. We're going to have him look like he's yelling here a little bit. Because the fun thing about Mr. Lunt in this show is he's got just one tooth on the bottom, which is kind of fun. So we're going to put his mouth in here and add his tooth, like that. And then right below the bottom of his mouth is the top of his apron. Let's draw the top of his apron. And then the straps of his apron that hold it up come down just about a little bit past the points of his mustache. And the straps come up, and they're going to wind behind him, back behind him. You have to imagine that they come up, and they'd wrap behind him like so, and then come back around. So you can, if you need to, you can draw a line, if that helps, or you can just kind of imagine it and bring that on around like so. So those are the straps of his apron as they come around. The apron, he ties little straps around his waist as well. So the apron kind of comes down and it hangs out almost to the bottom of Mr. Lunt's body. And the straps are going to come around about in the middle. And about in the middle of his apron, we're going to go ahead and put some straps. You can see a little bit of that second strap as it wraps around him. The straps will tie together on the side. We're going to draw a little knot with some ends sticking out, like so. And then we're going to draw his shirt collar that is underneath the apron. Again, we're going to do the top of the shirt, wrap it around him, like so. Imagine it wrapping around. And then his collar is kind of unique that it has these little block shapes that come down like this. And the same on this side. And then we can go back and darken some of the line work, the bottom of his hat, where it wraps around his head. We'll darken the nose so that it stands out nicely. The underside of his mustache. The sides of Mr. Lunt. If you have an eraser at home, this comes in handy. You can get your eraser and kind of erase some of the construction lines that we used to build Mr. Lunt. And since we already have the hat on his head, we can erase the construction lines of Mr. Lunt underneath there. And we can do the same for the eyebrows, where the hat goes behind his eyebrows. By erasing that light line, it feels really nice that his eyebrows are sitting now in front of his hat. Another thing we can add is on his hat. He's kind of got an old beat up hat, so we can go back in and add kind of this stitching that goes into his hat. And it's a little line or seam on the hat with a couple little stitches like this. And we can put a couple stitches on his apron, on the sides here that hold his apron together. Let's darken again some of the lines. And there we go. We have Mr. Lunt as Poncho.
Hi everyone, Larry Boy here. This is Greg Harden. He's a character artist here at Big Idea. Today, he's gonna show you how to draw me.
Okay, well we're gonna start off by drawing just Larry, and we'll add his costume on him here in a little bit. So with Larry, he starts off, gotta draw him as a cucumber. Give it a bit of an arch here on his back, and then we have to draw his eyes. And we're gonna draw him a little off center, So he's kind of like arching his back. So we'll draw his eyes right there. And then his nose comes over top in this lower part of his eyes. Let's see. And now we're going to put in his pupils, and we're going to have him back so he's like looking at us. So we'll put him here on the left side of his eyes. Give him some highlights in his eyes. And then now we got to do his lids. Now we got to give him a great big smile. And this big tooth. Okay, and we got Larry. What we got to do next is we're going to put his costume on him. So we're going to go ahead and we will put his mask on, and that'll just be a line that wraps and meets at his nose. It'll come from the side of his body and hit the nose, and then the nose is round, so it doesn't follow the shape of his body, so it's got to kind of curve around like that and curve around his nose. And then it's going to imaginary go back behind and kind of cross over to the back side of his head like that. Now we're going to put his belt buckle right here. And it's got an LB on it for Larry Boy. So just draw an L and a B. And then draw another circle that kind of goes behind it. The belt wraps around the lower part of his body like this. And here's the other part of his belt. And then we have to draw his belt loops that go like this. After that, we want to give him the fin on his head. So it wraps like this and then sticks out like a mohawk right there, and then wraps back around to the back side of his head right there. And it's got this cool stripe, kind of an arrow-like stripe that goes right there. We're going to put these stitches that are on his costume, and there's 3 of them, and they kind of hold the shirt together. Again, down the middle of his body right here. 1, 2, and 3. So his collar will connect from the back side of his head, because it goes back around, and it's going to run down to the middle right here. So it's going to go like this in a big sweeping curve, like that. And then it'll connect to the back side of his body, and it'll follow that curve down into the stitches right there. And then it's going to continue on down towards the belt buckle, so we will draw them in back behind the stitches right here. And same with over here. And it also starts back here behind his head and comes back and curves around to his body again. Just like that. And we get to come to the fun part right now, which is where we're going to put the plungers onto his head. So we'll start off with these circles over here on the side of his head. So we got to draw the stick of the plunger. So they come like this. And then the actual plunger itself. You draw this half moon that comes like this. And then we're going to put circles on the end of it. Now the other plunger will be kind of hidden by his eye over here. So we're going to draw this plunger, and it's the same plunger, but we're going to draw it from a different angle. So we will draw not quite the whole circle. And you're looking at this plunger from the other side. So we got to wrap, it curves it in a different direction. And then we got to draw the lip of the plunger like that. And then we'll shade his pupils in, make them black. And we can color in his mouth. What you can do now is you can erase areas that overlap. And we got a few of those around in here. See where that line came through and now it's sticking through his eyes? Let's get rid of some of that. And then his body overlaps the fin, so let's erase that. His body overlaps his collar, so we'll erase that. And it overlaps right there too. Once you're done with that, you're done with drawing Larry Boy. We can go on to coloring next. Now we get to the fun part, which is where we color Larry. You've done all the hard work already. All you have to do at this point is just put some colors in, just like you do on a coloring book. So let's start with purple. and we'll put it on this part of his head, up on the mask. And I don't like to color very dark because I like to still see my lines. So I just kind of lightly color in, and I kind of like to color all in the same direction because it just kind of looks cleaner and nicer. And then go on over into his nose. So that's part of the mask too. Then we go down and we color his pants. So I color all in the same direction. You don't have to. You can go up and down and left and right and any direction you want to go. But I think it just looks nicer if I go like that. So now let's color in his body. And remember, this part is where Larry's face shows through. So he's not, this is all Larry, not costume. So we're gonna color his nose. And that's all the green you get to see on Larry. So his collar stays white, but his shirt is yellow. So don't do the collar because the collar is white, but just do the shirt. The shirt is going to be yellow. And his stitches are yellow. And then part of his belt buckle here is going to be yellow as well. And his belt is going to be black. So you can bring back out your black crayon or your black pencil and color in his belt and make that black. Let's bring the purple back out again because I need to make his fin purple. The side of the fin is purple. This part, this arrow is going to be yellow though. So we only color this bottom part. And then the front side is going to be purple too. And the stripe on his helmet, on the fin, is going to be yellow. And we'll use the yellow pencil again for this round thing on his head where the plunger comes out. And we'll make the stick on the plunger yellow. And we're almost done. We're going to use red, and you can use pink if you want, but I'm going to use red because I don't press very hard. And I'm going to color the plungers red. And then the one on the left. And when you're all done with that, you got Larry Boy totally colored in and he's all done. And I'm sure you did a great job on your drawing, and if you want to do it again, just play the DVD again. Thanks, kids.
Hi everyone, Larry Boy here. This is Joe Spataford. He's a concept artist at Big Idea. He helped to redesign the Larry Cave for this show. Today, he's going to show you how to draw the bad apple.
First thing we're going to do is we're going to start off by drawing kind of a circle shape for the top of the bad apple. Again, as in all my how to draws, I start off drawing a light shade first. And below the circle shape, there's going to be kind of a square shape. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a big T shape, one that goes right down the middle and right across the middle of the circle. That's going to set up where my eye line is going to be. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start blocking in the eyes. Do one here and one here, and they're going to be touching, kind of squished right in the middle, right where that T shape that we originally drew comes together. Then we're going to draw another circle where her nose will be. Then we're going to draw kind of a smile down here. That's where her mouth will be. So her mouth has got kind of a B shape for the top lips and a U shape for the underlip. And put two little dimples on the side of her lips to show like she's smiling and she's making a grin. Now we're going to go back to her eyes and we're going to draw her upper eyelid. That's where her eyelash will be. And the other eyelid over here. And now we're going to block in where her eyeballs are, right here and here. She's going to be looking off to that side. I'm going to put another little circle within the eyelids to show a highlight. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly block in the leaf shape and make an S shape and then make a C shape right on top. And then you can put a little bit of a point right up there. And then you can put another one here. The top of her head is a little flatter, slightly angled here. There's a little line. And now we're just going to darken this curve here. And then we're going to darken this curve here. At the top of her head is a stem, because she's an apple, right? What makes this character a villain is she's got kind of a spider leg belt right under the base of her. In the middle of that square shape, there's a big circle with two little circles right next to it. This is going to set up what her belt is going to look like. So I'm going to draw these little circles on the side. And that's where her legs are going to come out, because she's kind of like a spider shape. So the first thing we do is we draw these two squares that are kind of like tubes with little circles on the end of them. That sets up the lowest part of her leg. And we're going to do that again. So now we're going to go up. Now we're going to do another circle here, another square here, okay, now once again we do circles, circle, and now we do a triangle. And now what you can do to kind of cheat the background is just kind of copy this shape, just the top of it, right behind it. We'll do it again here. Just look right at this and just copy it. Looking at that, I'm copying it, putting another circle, copying this triangle here too. Same thing here, copying that square, copying that circle, copying that triangle, and we do it one more time for this character. Circle, so we got three circles, another square, another circle shape, another square shape just like these three, another circle, and another triangle. And over here the same thing. Square, circle, triangle. And we got to put this square, circle, triangle. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a little bit cleaner by going into it and putting darker lines. And that's the basic drawing for the bad apple. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go in, we're going to try to use this purple to try to find where all the darks are in the character. So I'll just put a little bit of purple in there. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to try to put the greens that are in the character in. Let's see. Start off on the top of her head. There's a little bit of green at the top of her head. So I'm going to put that little bit of green in. I know her eyes are green, so I'm going to put those in. I know her leaf at the top is a green leaf, so I'm going to color that nice and green too. So now we basically got the greens that I know are going to be in the piece in there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start throwing in some of the reds. Okay, and I'll get her lips. I'll use a darker red on her lips. We've got some red that it's actually right inside the belt on the bottom here. Now we're going to start blocking in the metal. For the metal, we're just going to block in the top and bottom. We're going to leave the middle part white. So blue on the top and bottom. That makes it look kind of metallic-y. Metallic-y means metal-y. I don't know if metal-y is actually a word. Probably not. Two more things to go. The stem. It's a brown stem. And cannot forget the eyes. The eyes are, all the veggie eyes are a little bit dark, almost like black eyes there, but they're cute black eyes. We're actually just going to take a light blue and we're going to throw it right in. Color in that middle contraption. I'll just go all blue with that one. And then as a last thing with this character, you might like to just put some green behind her. Just to make that red pop right out. Because she jumps out a little bit more in a green environment. And we always got to learn to sign our images with our name. Take care, guys. Thanks again for coming, and hope to see you next time.
Hi kids, my name's Greg and I'm here at Big Idea with all of my friends and we're going to draw Mo from Mo and the Big Exit. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is just draw Larry the cucumber. Using our green crayon. So now that we've got that, we're going to draw one of his eyes right here. And then we'll draw another one a little bit smaller because we're going to give him a bit of a confident and kind of funny look. And draw his nose. And then we're going to want to put his pupil right there in the middle of his eye. And his other one right there as well. Give him some eyebrows. And a smile. So first thing we got Larry. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start putting clothes on him and turn him into Mo. So we're going to grab our red crayon and draw the handkerchief around his neck. And that just goes like this. And then we'll draw the knot. And the other side of the handkerchief, we're going to kind of have it flowing in the breeze here a little bit. That's why it's sticking out. So now that we got that done, we're going to draw his clothes. So here we go with the collar on his shirt. And we're going to, let's go ahead and we're going to color in his shirt and pants before we do anything else to it. And do it really lightly so that you can still see your lines. We'll draw his belt, which goes kind of in the middle. And his belt buckle. You can color this in if you want. And we're going to draw some of the decorative elements on his shirt. So those go kind of like this. And then he's got these little strings that kind of hold his shirt together. So we'll take the black crayon and just draw those in right there. Okay, so now we got his clothes on him. We need to put his hat on him. So we're going to draw the underside of the hat right here. And then the bill of the hat kind of goes behind his head and it's going to swoop around. So it's going to go like this. And then the top of his hat goes right here. Put the band on his hat, and then this little crease here. So now what we get to do is we're gonna color in Larry's body. And be careful around the black, because you see how it starts to smear? You don't want it to smear, because it'll start looking ugly. And we'll color in his eyelids and the rest of his body. And I like to go all in one direction. It just makes everything look nicer. Okay. Can any of you guys tell me what I'm forgetting to put on his face?
I know. His mask.
What?
I know.
Yep, his mask. You got it right. Okay. So since it's in black, black is the darkest thing, and black can color over top of any color. You can color over, I could go like this and then you wouldn't see the rest of my drawing. So that's why we're saving it to the last, because I could color over this green and you almost can't even tell the green was over there in the first place. So it goes on into his eyes. And then we're going to finish drawing his mask. Color it nice and dark so it'll cover up that green. Then we go back over top and just kind of make everything real crisp and clean. We'll just go back over with our black. And we'll even kind of color the underside of the hat just to show that there's some shadow. Just color real lightly. And we've got Mo. Well, hey kids, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Good luck.
Hey kids, welcome to another How to Draw. I brought a few friends together with me today, and we're gonna draw Zippy from Mo and the Big Exit. So you guys ready to get drawn?
Yeah.
All right, let's get to it. Okay, we're gonna first start off by drawing kind of a wave shape. You know how a wave goes up and then swooshes down. Okay, you know, almost like a roller coaster. Now we're gonna bring that little roller coaster, we're gonna drop it right down right here. And we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. And then I'm lightly gonna draw on a line on the bottom. Oh, it's almost like looking down at a piano. Okay, then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a circle shape.
That's his tail.
This is going to actually be his head. And coming down from that circle shape will be kind of a square shape. And again, drawing real lightly like I have before, just to make sure that if I make mistakes, I can hide it up with a black crayon a little later. Then what we're going to do is we're going to draw on 4 different feet. And the way we're going to do that, we're going to start just by drawing 4 squares. One here, and one here. Okay, that's our basic body shape. And then we also can't forget the tail. He's a buffalo, so he's got a tail. So that's kind of a bendy line with kind of almost a circle, kind of triangle shape. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw on a little horn because he's a buffalo. Buffaloes have horns. Kind of like a bull has a horn, a buffalo's got a horn. And he's got an ear too. I'm going to draw a square shape right behind the ear. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is he's got a big mop of hair for his head. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw this line that kind of gives me a guide as to where his hair is. I'm going to do it there, and I'm going to do it here on his body. I'm going to make that bulge on top of his back a little bit more pronounced.
Because he's a buffalo.
Because he's a buffalo, that's right. Okay, then what I'm going to do next is draw an S shape that has some zigzags at the end. This is going to be where his goatee is. Now, Zippy's got this big circle around his eye that's basically just a different color fur. So I'm going to draw that in first, and then I'm going to draw another smaller circle in there for where his eye itself will be. Now I'm going to draw kind of a B shape because his nose has got a little bit of it's a different color skin where his mouth would be. And where his mouth is, just draw another kind of square shape. Imagine kind of a square shape, but it's basically going jum, jum, like that. Oh, and he's got a nostril too. So we're going to draw another little circle in there for where his nose is. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a block in the hairline. We do that mostly with some zigzags or some little U shapes. Do that, 1, 2, 3. I'll do the same thing up here at the top of his head. Bam, bam, bam. All right, we're going to do another one here and then another big one behind him. Okay, so that's the back part of his hair. Okay, so now we're going to do the clump of hair that's on his back here. Just draw some of these zigzag lines here. They're actually almost kind of like U shapes. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the feet. And on the feet, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a little curvy line from about the middle of the leg to the base of the foot. This is going to help set up what the feet look like. And at the base of the foot, make a triangle. Here, 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 and here. Those are going to act as his toes. And now this black crayon guy here is going to help me make sure that everything has a nice crisp line to it and we can see just what we intend to see. So all these rough sketchy lines, they don't really even matter anymore. They're more of a guide. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start over here. That's the basic shape. Now we're just going to block in the tail. All right, now what do we got to do? We got to color this guy. He's got kind of this brown skin, so we're just going to find a brown that works. I am using raw sienna right now. You don't have to use it. You can use any color you want. You can make Zippy purple if you wanted to. What color is his body?
Brown. Brown.
It's a brown, that's right. So what we're going to do is take a brown and we're just going to...
Or red.
Yeah, that's a reddish brown. These guys here, they think it's red. Okay, so there's our brown for the body. Now he's got a little bit of a darker brown for his hair. Almost towards a gray, but in this case, we'll just make it like a dark brown. Same thing under his goatee there. Let's do that in his back hair too. Back hair. Gross. Okay. Okay, and we're going to put a little bit of a dark coloring on his tail too. So let's go dark on that. Forgot to color his ear. Can't have a white ear. Let's go a little darker with that ear too. All right, now Zippy's actually got a little lighter color around his eye. So we're gonna color that in. Okay, and he's got some gray legs. Okay, and his feet are kind of gray here, so.
Didn't you do with that?
These guys here want me to put some gray up here for him too, you know, just to show you that his horn isn't just a stark white thing. There's a little bit of a shadow on there, so we can get away with putting a little gray up there. And then last but not least, we got to color in his mouth here, and
His nose.
and that's right, we got to put a little bit of black in his nose. And his eyes have a kind of greenish color. So this is pretty much Zippy, you know, we're just kind of the last second thing, just kind of put some nice dark lines in there just so it reads a little bit better with all that color. It got a little washed out. leave that white spot in his eye for a pupil. And the last thing we do is we put a little bit of blue behind him just to pop him out a little.
Make it look nice.
Yeah, it makes it look nice. And every artist has got to sign his work, like always. My name's Joe. That's a J, by the way. Age 28. I'll be 29 in a few weeks. So thanks again for joining us, and we're going to keep at this, and and thanks also for sending your drawings in that you do over the course of in between every show. We get your drawings in, and they all look great. You guys are all doing a fantastic job. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Hey kids, welcome to another How to Draw episode. Over the past couple months, we've been doing these How to Draws for a little while, and every once in a while we get these wonderful pieces of art sent to us from you guys. And and we're really grateful to get those because we hang them up, we look at them, we laugh, and we think they're great. So you guys have all been doing a fantastic job. Actually, here's one of my favorites from my buddy Daniel, who just came to the studio and gave me this. This is his drawing of Bob. We actually kind of tag teamed this one. We did it together. So good job, Daniel. Just a little heads up from the folks at Big Idea. We're gonna keep that up there. And I thought, since this show is largely about the main thing that Bob and Larry say at the end of every episode, which is God made you special and loves you very much, why don't we just first off do a drawing of Bob and Larry, like you see them standing at the beginning of every show. Okay, so let's start with that. All right. First thing is I'm going to draw Bob, because Bob's always standing in front, and he's an oval shape. And I noticed some of you, and especially noticed Daniel when he came in the studio, was really paying attention to drawing those center lines, those really kind of light lines that happen right in the middle. So I'm going to start today with drawing the eyes, which are, like I said, almost two squished egg shapes that come in the middle. And Bob's got a nice big nose, and he's got a nice smile that goes underneath all that, which is kind of a U shape. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw just another kind of a C-shaped line here, draw a line that comes down, and another C-shaped line there. That's going to set up what we call the eyelids, like these little guys. Okay, and then Bob and Larry's eyeballs are ellipses, but they turn in a little bit. It's kind of weird, but it really does make quite a difference when you draw them. So they're circles, but they're tilted a little bit and they're squashed a little bit. And inside of those, we're going to draw another little circle. Okay, that's a highlight on the eye. And we might as well at this point just make it go dark. Now at the top of Bob's head, he's got that little tuft of what looks like hair, but it's just the part of the vine that he grew off the branch on, and a stem. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to kind of go into Bob and just darken that edge just a little bit. We'll darken the whole thing overall a little bit later. All right, but behind Bob is Larry. So we're going to actually imagine you're drawing through Bob. Larry's kind of right there. He's obviously much taller than Bob. Okay, and then Larry, we're going to just imagine that center line too, just real light, nothing that has to be heavy. And then we're going to do the same thing with him. We're going to draw his eyes. And his big schnoz right there, that nose of his, little circle. And then he's got a narrower U-shaped mouth. Comes down like that. And then in there, of course, as we all know, Larry's got one tooth. I'm going to draw those C shapes underneath his eyes. And those squash circle shapes that are going to be coming looking right at us. With the circles inside to show a little bit of sunlight hitting the eye. And now, just real quick, I'm just going to darken everything in, just so we have a nice solid drawing. Okay, now real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw into Bob and Larry just a little bit of color. Sometimes I'll draw with just a darker color first. You see it looks a little purpley right now. But this is just to make it look like a little shadowy. Now I'm going to go and take a lighter color of red. And I'm going to go even over that purple. And it just makes this nice looking feeling of like there's almost like a shadow. You just go over the entire thing. Have fun with it, you know? I mean, this is a drawing. Drawings are meant to be fun. Okay, we're going to do one more pass, and that's with like a brighter orangier red. All right, so that's my color for Bob. You see I left some of that purple in there to make it just look like it's a little shadowy. But now what I'm going to do with Larry is the same kind of thing. I'm just going to take a green and go over everything. So we're doing the same thing with Larry. Actually, I'm even going to go a little darker. I got a nice darker kind of green in there for Larry. You know, as you can see, I'm just having fun with it, right guys? I mean, the important thing is you have fun. Putting some shadows in their eyes, because their eyes are round. And then the last thing I'll do is I'll just take a little bit of blue and just put it behind them, just to make them pop a little. And what the heck, we'll put them on a yellow ground too. Like they're on the countertop or something. All right, so that's Bob and Larry. Well, I hope you learned a little bit about drawing Bob and Larry today. Just keep practicing it. It's just a bunch of circles and egg shapes, and you know, and with the color, just remember, just do your dark stuff first and then put your light stuff, your light, shiny, happy colors on top of it. And you'll get good stuff. Well, thanks for joining me, and look forward to seeing you next time.